Hello.
Hello.
Before we start, I know I didn't shave. My mental health is spiraling down the drain. I don't want to talk about it.
Today we're going to be reacting to some 80s Trad Goth videos.
Also, massive shout out to Forgotten Glory here on YouTube. Their channel archives 70s, 80s, 90s footage of the goth subculture, punks, everything like that. It is a literal treasure trove of old clips that you can't find anywhere else on the internet. And they are doing the Lord's work by putting it all up on YouTube in one place for us to watch. This first video was filmed in 1988 and it is 80s Kensington Trad Goths.
I was like, wait a minute, didn't we already see this? But they all start this way, apparently.
I wish our channel intro was this iconic. This is what our channel intro should be like. I was thinking the exact same thing as you. That 80s BBC documentary on Goth started out essentially the exact same way. There's one guy in the offices at the television companies who are like, "Oh, we're doing Goth documentaries again. Cool. I know a graveyard. I got some sound effects on vinyl that I can throw on." Nailed it.
Again, they're probably going to be confused about goths and vampires. Says me, but...
The whole idea behind Gothic is people just think it started in 1976, and the whole concept of Gothic is a far-reaching thing. It goes back to medieval times. And we just want to sort of enlighten people a bit, because there's a lot more to it than just like backcombing your hair. There's the whole art and literature and everything, you know, and a lot of people just miss that point totally.
You can 100% tell that this was at a point in time where Ministry were like at their peak. They look so much like Al Jorgensen. I don't know, I'm not a massive Ministry fan, okay? I like Ministry, but I'm not a massive Ministry fan. That's a good point, at least, saying, oh, it's not just one thing, it's a whole subculture, there's way more aspects behind it. People think, oh, it's just about dressing up, backcombing your hair, and not realizing that there's, even at this point in 1988, already sort of a rich culture to it.
So we're starting off on a good start, I think.
Sometimes foreshadowing is relatively obvious.
Spoke too soon.
I've been guilty of using this sound effect. I've used this in our videos, I've used this in our TikToks. It's funny, it's ironic, right? It's ironic. Maybe they were using it ironically.
Obviously it's different for me because I don't put myself like into one thing being like I'm Trad Goth or Goth, whatever. Like I just do a bit of everything. So for me, I'd be like, okay, that's fine. But if I was just Trad Goth, only Trad Goth, and they did this, I'd be like, you're mixed up.
I mean, there's a definite market for Carol's clothing. I mean, most people would call it Gothic. The strong colours like obviously red and black predominate. I mean, particularly associated with the occult, let's say, you know, there's sort of strong colours. I think there's a sort of similarity between the 60s and sort of, you know, like the 14th, 15th century, that whole, you know, sort of flamboyance.
I'm just laughing because the way he said, well, I say it differently. I say occult, but it sounded like he said the Yakult.
The
like,
Yakult?
You know, like... Yeah.
I thought it was good for you.
Maybe that's why, because English people pronounce it that way, so that's why they made that. I never realised until right now.
Don't mess with the Yakult.
The Yakult.
This is cool as well. You can kind of see it, the melding of romantic and medieval kind of goth influence in there. So that's interesting because this was around the time, I think we're a little late in the late 80s, but this was, I think, around the time period where romantic goth was starting to get very popular right before the lead into like the 90s.
It's strange to notice that some of the bigger high street chain stores this summer have really, well, last summer and the coming spring, they've got a lot of, you know, these kind of designs in there, and they will rename, you know, unmention the names, but I mean, it's obvious their designers have been around places like this.
That does look so much like Robert Smith.
I'm sure it's on purpose.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, yeah, he's definitely a cure head. That's definitely like a big cure head, but that's impersonator territory there at this point.
Seen Carol's designs and copied them, you know, and stuck them in the shops, made a lot of money. Okay, the designs, you know, Carol uses are sort of, can be used by anybody, but I mean, she's been doing it for a few years now, and once again, it's just high fashion decides, let's take a street fashion and manipulate it, you know, for big money.
It's happening right now.
Yeah, it happens in a cycle just over and over again.
It's so weird to see now. Like, I feel like goth and gothic stuff is coming heavy into the fashion industry now. Like, even like Kardashians and stuff wearing like crosses and stuff that I would wear, but it's probably so expensive.
Yeah, it's come back in the last like 2-3 years. A lot of high fashion brands are pushing the all black aesthetic, the like oversized religious jewelry and things like that. But I'm talking just in general, this happens every 10 years or so. Like, I remember when emo started hitting the mainstream and it got to its peak. And then all of a sudden, all these like high street stores were selling emo influenced clothing.
I feel like that's one thing you won't see on the fashion walk. Maybe
you did see similar looking things in like high fashion,
yeah,
where they'd have like the oversized like striped tops and things like that. And then there was that period where they were pairing really like fancy dresses with like sneakers, Converse and stuff. This thing just happens all the time, and it sucks because, as you can see from this point here, it's being lifted from independent designers who are coming up with things or like reintroducing things or experimenting and mixing things that haven't happened before or haven't happened in a long time, and they're bringing it up in a really fresh way. And before they get to a really popular point, some high fashion brand comes in and, oh, that looks really cool, what if we like mass produced that and sold it for like a lot? So it sucks.
I'm not into witchcraft, but I'm into walking around at graveyards at night and frightening a few people, yeah.
Same. I'm not into witchcraft, but I will sure walk around a graveyard at night and accidentally frighten a few people.
He does it on purpose, though.
50s, you know, well, even earlier, 30s for films of the old black and white classics, you know, Hunchback and Notre Dame and Frankenstein, the Draculas and Hound of the Baskerville. Blood and guts and gore and all this, and keeping the image going is just the way that I've always felt and lived. If you mix all this together and try a bit of rock and roll into it, then you've got some exciting music.
I think that's an interesting point that doesn't get brought up enough in these sort of videos when we watch them, is the build up to the Gothic movement. There were so many things from so many different sources that people were taking inspiration from. Like, I've seen people trace it back, Screaming Jay Hawkins, the whole like I put a spell on you, and that sort of like slow feel to it with the horror B-movie overtones and wise. Like, so it's very interesting to hear someone talk about how, yeah, it is the sort of influenced from the past 50 years, this build up of all this alternative culture and like horror and different music. It's just this melting pot then that became goth.
It's about gothic music, vampires, that sort of thing.
Is that where you get your images from?
Ding, 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 ding. There it is. And it only took us 4.5 minutes. That's actually a new record. That's a new record for how long we've watched one of these before someone has mentioned vampires.
Which mean I'd be the one in this video to come along and be like, vampires, huge inspiration.
You? I never would have thought it.
Sorry, not sorry.
And this is pre-interview with the vampire movie. I mean, the books were out, to be fair. It's interesting to see it talked about a few years before the big vampire boom in like the Gothic subculture. That was the end of the first video. It was quite a short one. Interesting. I mean, it was a nice little piece on Goths. At least it wasn't damaging, actually, for once. There was no like really overly stereotypical things said or made about it. It was kind of nice. It was kind of wholesome, actually. But the one thing I always say about when we react to these videos is just getting an insight into the style, the fashion, the makeup looks, the hair that everyone had back then is always super interesting. I love looking back at older footage like this and getting to see like the fashion at the time.
And it's interesting how it actually hasn't really changed as well. And you're even seeing people with like graphic liner and stuff, which I think went away for a long time and then came back as well. So I'm shocked to see that.
Yeah, I think it was seen as cringe in the 90s because it was such a big thing in the 80s. Everyone was like, that was a very 80s moment we were having, let's put that behind us. But it came back in the early 2000s and it's back again now. We have another video here to watch again from the Forgotten Glory YouTube channel. Thank you so much. And this one is from the early 80s and it's interviews with Trad Goths in a nightclub. I'm not exactly sure where the nightclub is. I know it's in the UK, but I'm not sure like whereabouts. Okay, I double checked, and apparently it's in West Yorkshire, so probably somewhere around like, I don't know, my English geography is terrible.
Right, and are you both working or unemployed or what?
Well, I'm working.
You working? Where you work?
Straight off the bat, that reporter is an... So, like, are you unemployed? Yeah, because if you look like this, you must be unemployed, surely. I'm so glad they were turning around and was like, no, like, I have a job. They are incredible eyebrows. They're both really good makeup looks. I'm very jealous. I've never been able to pull either of these looks off, and I've tried both of them many times.
Well, believe it or not, I'm a nurse.
You're a nurse? Yeah, where?
Dewsbury.
And what basically does that involve?
I'm on casualty at the moment at Dewsbury.
I bet that reporter felt like such a... I hope that reporter felt like such a... Turn around someone, yeah, you're unemployed, like, because you look like you are, and they're like, no, actually I'm a nurse, like, and I do the emergency room in the local hospital. Like, what do you do? Walk around making remarks to people?
I'm a part-time student and I'm unemployed besides that. I'm doing A-levels.
Yeah, okay.
I was staying quiet because I was like, let's give this person a chance, but yeah, okay.
Yeah, okay. He's just annoyed because he's obviously very, very judgmental, and he's just hoping that they would turn around and say, yeah, no, neither of us work, we're both on the dole. And it's like, no, I'm in college, I'm doing my A-levels. They're a nurse in the local hospital. So, good. I hope you feel like a...
Where'd you get your hair done? You know, do you get it done specially at any special place, or do you do it yourself, or what?
We do it ourselves, really.
Yeah, I've got a friend who cuts my hair.
They're cutting their hair themselves back then. I don't know anyone who does that.
I haven't been to a hairdresser in like 4 or 5 years. They won't really do what you want, and I know my hair's a mess right now. I'm just figuring things out right now. I'm trying to decide what hairstyle I want. Comment below and help me decide a colour and a haircut. Every now and again I'm like, oh, maybe I'll actually go to a hairdresser, and then I chicken out and I'm like, no. At least if I mess it up, it's my own problem and I can deal with that. If someone else messes it up, I'll just cry. I feel like I cry a lot when I leave the hairdressers, so I don't cry very often when I cut my own hair.
And what about all your clothes? Do you have to buy them at any special shop, or do you go to a certain shop, or...
I make my own clothes.
Sorry, can you say that again?
I make my own clothes.
And what about you?
Well, get some made and you just look around for whatever you fancy.
So what, you just basically buy what you want. If you see it, you buy it. You don't go anywhere special to buy your clothes or whatever?
Well, not really, no. Jumble sales are pretty good.
Yeah, second-hand shop.
I feel like back then maybe they didn't really have many places to buy clothes like us right now. Growing up here, I think, helped us become really crafty because you can't really just go to a shop and buy what you want. Like, we have a few little stores, but even back in the day, there was like one store we could go to, so you kind of have to get crafty with it. And I'm just used to just going to the local store and finding something black and flowy and pairing that with lots of different outfits and just using like fishnet tights as tops and stuff like that, and just kind of making your own clothes, making something simple, at least different than what other people would be wearing. Like, so you can go to the shop and buy something that everybody might have, but you can, even without DIYing it or anything, just styling it different can just change the whole thing anyway. Like, people are always asking me like, oh, where did you get this and that? And then I tell them and they're always like, huh? And they're surprised just because the way I'm wearing it, and they don't realize they can actually just go into a Primark or a H&M and go and buy it, and you don't need to spend a lot of money at a specific Goth store.
There's a lot of jumble sales and second-hand shops to pick up that style of clothing.
Yeah, Oxfam's alright.
Did you say Oxfam's alright? Oxfam's alright. Words to live by, honestly. You've picked up some amazing things.
Yeah, even here it's really hard. Like, in America it's great because, even in the UK it's great because you can go and you can find all these Goth brands and stuff. But here it's very hard because it costs us a lot of money to even order stuff like that online, and it's hard to get it here. So if you find something like that, then that's like the luckiest day ever. But just finding stuff with flowy sleeves or blazers or like anything like that, by the way, we have a video coming soon where we're gonna show you how you can do that, even here in this country where there's not a lot to actually work off. I forgot, I'm going on a rant. What was I saying?
You were saying Oxfam's alright, isn't it?
Oxfam's alright, isn't it?
And what sort of music? What's your favourite type of music? Your favourite records?
Oh no, I don't know really. It's
whatever to play.
Quite vast, really.
Yeah, can you just give us one or two?
Well, like Glenn Miller, all that sound, and dear me, Cabaret Voltaire.
You say you like Glenn Miller. It's a bit out of date, really, isn't it? You know, what makes you go for that style of music?
Well, yeah, it's just whatever gets you, isn't it? What you like. I know, you just like it.
What do you think about it when he, plays stuff like the Monkeys theme and that sort of stuff?
It's good fun, isn't it? It's nice to dance to, and it's a change.
I think it breaks the evening up a little bit, creates sort of a party atmosphere more than anything.
Yeah, you can't do just one sort of music. It's no good at all, really.
It's not very often that this happens in an interview. Where
The
people
level-
don't just name like the usual bands you would imagine they would say.
Not only that, just to be like, yeah, I like it when they switch things up and play other stuff, because like you can't just have one genre of music, you know, like that would be boring if you could only listen to one genre of music for the rest of your life. And that is coming from an early 80s actual trad goth. So any goth elitists out on the internet there that think you only have to listen to goth music and you can't listen to anything else, otherwise you're no longer considered goth, suck it.
You work as a reporter, you say. Where's that for?
For the Dewsbury Reporter.
Right, now, your hair's not as bad as the last two, but where do you get your outfits from?
See? What a
Get out of here.
Let's go on to the dancing, you know. What sort of records do you like to dance to? What sort of music do you like?
I absolutely love David Bowie. He's my favourite. But I like T-Rex, Cotton Rebel, all the older sort of artists.
Yeah. What's your favourite Bowie single? Because I like Bowie myself, actually.
Well, my favourite one to dance to is Amsterdam. But I like his current single, Blue Jean, especially.
Yeah. Okay, and where did you learn to dance like you do? Because it is fairly good.
Should we leave? Should we leave? Like, do these two need to be left alone? The vibes are getting real weird now on this one. They're both reporters. They have a lot in common. You'll be wearing eyeliner in a week.
I just make it up, stand in front of the mirror dancing, watching myself.
Yeah, because it does look very effective, you know.
Yeah, well, a lot of people have commented on it, but I just go out to enjoy myself and get on the dance floor. I just lose myself in the music.
Yeah, I suppose it's the best way to go about it. Yeah, okay. Anything else about this?
He's forgotten what he was even doing at this point.
Anything else?
Yeah. The interviewer turned around to you. Yeah, so anything else?
You free later?
He's legitimately forgot what
Come
he's
here
even
often.
there for now.
You know, what records you like? What sort of music you like?
He's already asked you this.
Yeah.
What sort of music do you like?
I think he went so far off his notes and he got caught up in flirting too hard, and then he's like, oh yeah, but music.
Do you work or unemployed or what?
I go to college, Huddersfield.
Unemployed.
Sorry?
Unemployed.
Had to do them like that, really? That's cruel. Yeah, unemployed. Sorry, what, can you repeat that one again? That's like if someone says to me, what do you do? And I'm like, YouTuber. YouTuber.
Bit of everything.
Yeah, I do.
I work online,
Yeah.
and then they're like, doing what? And I'm like, videos. And they're like,
like,
videos
oh.
of what? And I'm like, I don't want to talk about it. And then they're like, oh.
Where you get the clothes from?
Second-hand places and stuff, and mostly I make them myself.
Yeah, some of the others said they got them from Oxfam shops and jumble sales, that type of place. Is that right?
Yeah, it's the most original places there is for nice little clothes.
Buy dresses and cut them up and just do anything with them.
Your outfit's a bit unusual, to say the least. Did you make it yourself?
Yeah, I made it off a sheet off her bed.
I'm getting video ideas.
Yeah, fantastic tips in here, honestly. Especially the like getting dresses and cutting them up and turning them into tops, because then you have so much fabric to work with and you can kind of wear them like lots of different ways.
Let's do it.
If you got the body for it, which I do not. So
You can't not have a body to...
let's mark it in the calendar for a few months from now.
No, because it can be so baggy and like flowy.
I don't want to pop it on YouTube.
Yeah, they're right what he said about the second-hand stuff though, because you can get stuff in there that you would never really see just around the usual stores, because it can be stuff that left the stores a long time ago and that no one's really wearing right now. So you can get original stuff that no one else is going to be wearing.
Your hairstyles, do you do them yourself or do you get them specially done?
Well, I went to an hairdresser's and they didn't cut it how I liked it, so I just do it on my own way.
It's probably what I'm going to end up doing.
Just sitting in the chair and the hairdresser's here. Give us that scissors, will you?
It's just really so they can do the back of my head and stuff, because obviously I'm not doing a great job on that. So just go in and be like, just do the back of my head, will you?
Can I get
half price?
Yeah, can I get a half price haircut? Because I only want you to do the back of my head because I can't see that.
They didn't cut it how you wanted it to be cut, so you spiked it up like that.
Yeah.
And what about you?
I worked at that hairdresser's. I didn't do it. I got sacked the morning she came in for her hair doing.
It wasn't you that cut hair, was it?
Me. I would have done it. I'd have made a better job than what other woman did.
Yeah, okay. And what about you?
Supposed to be doing my hair, but it got sacked, so she did it, and it was awful.
So you was working at the hairdressers and you got sacked because someone cut her hair badly? No?
I got sacked the morning that these two were coming in for their hair doing. And I were going to do the hair, but she sat me, so she did the hair and made a mess of it.
Tragic. Let's go back to your house and come here. Like, I'm not staying here and letting someone else do it. What happened? Like, I feel like at the hairdressers, they were just like, sit down now. And they were like, well, we want our friend to do our hair. And they're like, yeah, sit down.
Now, what sort of music do you like? Obviously, you like this alternative style of music, but in particular, could you sort of make it a bit more specific?
Smiths mainly, and Echo and the Bunnymen.
Is that a ding 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 again?
ding.
That's a ding 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 again. Yay! We got the Smiths. The fact that we've watched 2 of these videos and haven't heard The Cure though, that's crazy. That's unheard of. But we did get the Smiths. And Echo and the Bunnymen, which I rate 100%.
Yeah, people don't say that often enough.
So that is the end of the clips that we are going to be watching today. I quite enjoyed them. Again, as always, interesting insights into early 80s and late 80s goth subculture and fashion. Shame that second interviewer was such a... yeah, but... did still get some interesting answers out of people, some cool insights and things like that. I love the fashion tips, everyone doing their hair themselves, cutting up the clothes themselves. They were ahead of their time in being environmentally friendly and environmentally conscious when it came to fashion.
And also that they just weren't saying that you can only listen to the one type of music. It's great to know even back then they were trying to make a point of saying we listen to everything. And you can listen to everything. We don't need to be only listening to one thing.
If you would like to see us do more reaction videos to 80s or 90s goths, please let us know down in the comment section down below. Thank you so much to our patrons for helping to support us and make these videos possible. Thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, please leave us a like, and if you're not subscribed, please consider subscribing. It helps us out so much. And as always, until next time, see you in your nightmares.